Progress doesn't always come from training harder. Sometimes it comes from recovering better. If you're disciplined and you still feel stuck, this is probably why. Most people aren't really lazy. They show up, they still care. But when your life stress goes up and you put recovery on the back burner, your progress will get capped. Training is stress, life is stress, work is stress. Your body doesn't separate where stress comes from. It only feels the totality of it all. The reality is, if you're constantly sore, your workouts always feel flat, you have lingering fatigue week to week, and you don't understand why your motivation is dipping, this is usually where people start to question themselves. It's not a character flaw, it's a recovery mismatch. Sometimes you're just training harder than your life can actually support. You're pushing limits, you're training like your life has unlimited recovery, but your busy schedule, your sleep, your nutrition, and your stress levels are all real constraints. So what happens is the harder you push, the more it feels like you're spinning your wheels. How hard you train should equal how much effort you put into recovery. And don't just take it from me. People like Chris Bumstead preach this all the time. So if you're not going to listen to me, at least listen to him. The reality is, if you train only once to twice per week, then this likely doesn't relate to you. But if you're pushing your limits week to week, your recovery level is going to set your ceiling. Your recovery determines your progress more than your workouts. If your recovery is very low, I don't care if you have the best program in the world. You don't adapt from the workout. You adapt to what you can actually recover from. I want you to think of recovery like a budget. You only have so much you can spend each week. Training is a withdrawal. Life is a withdrawal. Stress is a withdrawal. If you keep overspending, eventually something breaks. Progress, your motivation, or even worse, your body. Recovery is where your gains are made. This is something I struggled with a lot. I come from an athletic background. I'm very competitive in nature. So I always want to push my limits. But over the last couple years, what I've really realized is if you don't prioritize your recovery, it actually slows your progress. About a year ago, I was in a powerlifting block and I was trying to go for a deadlift PR. But my sleep and my nutrition were awful. The way I combated that was to train harder. But what actually happened was eventually I hit a wall and I failed my deadlift PR. After I reassessed the situation and decided to take one, my nutrition more seriously, and two, my sleep more seriously, after a few months, my deadlift PR exploded and I felt like a way better athlete. My progress returned when my training matched my recovery. A lot of people are training for a life they don't have anymore. You're training like you're 19 years old with all the energy in the world, before you had a job, before you had life responsibilities, trying to train like an athlete without taking into consideration all of these life stressors. Most programs don't fail, they just don't fit the person running them. So you really have to evaluate your life circumstance and the environment you're in. If you have a crazy busy life, then maybe pushing your limits week to week in the gym isn't going to serve you any better. Sometimes it's actually better to do less than it is to do more in these situations. Now, you should still train hard, but you should prioritize your sleep, your nutrition, and pay attention to your stress levels. This will equal better consistency and better results, and you'll avoid hitting that wall just like I did. You earn intensity through recovery, not motivation. Busy life equals simple and efficient training. Really high stress week, lower your intensity. Sleep and eat better to earn that intensity. You don't need to be mentally tougher, you just need a better system. And look, if you are going to train like an athlete, like I do, and you're going to push your limits week to week, you need to add other forms of recovery in your life. Something that's very underutilized is active recovery. You could go for walks, you could do yoga, you could do some light boxing, or any form of light cardio. Something else you could focus on too are some relaxation techniques: meditation, breath work, foam rolling, massage. All of these things are going to increase that recovery budget I mentioned before. But something important I want to mention is consistency will always beat intensity when you have a busy life. So create an environment where you can be consistent without running yourself into the ground. With all this being said, I still want you to train hard, but only as hard as your recovery allows.